And I thought, I'm not doing enough. I missed something. So I started doing more and inserting myself into more of anything he would try to do. And if I would ask him for help and he'd try to help me, I would tell him then how to help me. Wait, no, not that way, this way. And then he kind of quit wanting to help me. So that just spiraled.
Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today what I'm sharing is for a long-lasting marriage, say this phrase every day. The intimacy at my guest Nicole's house had grown cold, and she was doing everything and yet not feeling appreciated. But 6 months ago, something happened, a big something. And now her husband can't stop taking her on romantic date nights. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. But first, let's talk about the phrase to say every day for a long-lasting marriage. Not only will this phrase help make your marriage last a lifetime, it will also help your marriage to stay shiny and amazing. Because it's not just the words coming out of your mouth and the fact that your husband hears them that make them powerful. Although that's certainly part of it. He will respond to you better. This phrase is also going to change your heart. It does double duty that way. And that's why I consider it the most powerful intimacy skill of all. The phrase I'm referring to is, are you ready for this? Write this down. The phrase is, thank you. I'm so happy that you, and fill in the end of the sentence with something that he did that was thoughtful or lightened your load or made you feel good. I'm going to break that phrase down in a minute because there's actually a lot there. But if you're thinking, that's just saying thank you, Laura, that's just expressing gratitude, you are right. But there's a little more to it. So let's get into that. You've probably heard lots of times already that you should be grateful, right? Don't forget to count your blessings. Your parents probably said, what do you say? And prompted you to say thank you when your aunt gave you ice cream or your cousin gave you a birthday present. I got the same training, but I have to confess, I wasn't all that grateful as a young adult. Oh, sure. I said, thank you and please and you're welcome and all the right words to be polite. But I was taking a lot of things for granted before I started practicing the 6 intimacy skills, like so many things. So it was a big change in the atmosphere around here when I started expressing heartfelt gratitude to my husband by saying not just thank you, but also how it made me feel that he had gotten the holiday decorations down from the attic for me, or done the dishes, or filled up the car, or made my tea. If I'm honest, it was a struggle to get myself to thank him at all when I didn't think he was doing as much as he should be doing. You know, if he did the dishes, I was thinking, what about wiping down the counters? So it seemed like a stretch to say the words, thank you. I'm so happy you did the dishes. Because if I let my mouth keep going, I would say, now, how about cleaning the counter? And what's so bad about that, you might wonder? I mean, that's what I wondered too. Why not just be direct and tell him that he's not done with the job? Why not? And of course, you always have the option to do that. But I found it serves me better to focus on what I have instead of what I don't have. Complaining used to come pretty naturally for me. I am a natural kvetcher. And when I complained, what I was complaining about seemed so significant. I felt like I never had enough. But when I adopted the discipline of finding at least 3 things a day to thank my husband for, which seemed really, really hard at first, it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes. He was actually doing a lot, and I had been missing it. I thought it was his job to take care of the cars or do the dishes since I cooked, and to move the furniture when I had a yen to rearrange, and then to move it back after I changed my mind a moment later. But imagine if he wasn't doing those things, I'd have to do them. And when I thought about that, it went a long way toward making me less resentful about what he didn't do that I thought he should do. And that's when I discovered I couldn't be grateful and resentful at the same time. And that being grateful not only felt better, it made my husband want to jump up and find more things he could do to make me happy. True story. So it's my choice, gratitude or resentment. Which one do I want today? Sometimes I want to be resentful. Sometimes. Mere mortal woman here. Not very often anymore, but sometimes I go there. And I love knowing that I can get myself out of that yucky feeling when I open my eyes a little wider and look for what I'm grateful for and how I feel about that. Which is why this phrase, thank you, it made me so happy when you fill in the blank, is such a powerhouse phrase for making your marriage last and thrive, in my experience. John is so motivated to make me happy. And every man I've ever interviewed and asked, how important is it to you to make your wife happy, has said the same thing. It's very important to them. And when John does something that makes me happy and I let him know how happy it made me, he feels good about that. And so do I. So we both get to bask in that deliciousness every day. And no one wants to escape that heavenly feeling we have where I feel adored and taken care of, and he feels appreciated and successful at making me happy. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. The intimacy at my guest Nicole's house had grown cold, and she was doing everything and yet not feeling appreciated at all. But 6 months ago, something happened, a big something. And now her husband can't stop taking her on romantic date nights. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Nicole, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited to hear your story today.
Thank you, Laura. I'm so honored to be here. This is such a wonderful opportunity.
Oh, great. Well, take us back to the bad old days. What was happening in your marriage?
Well, this may not be what people expect to hear when you ask that question, because overall, we do have a really beautiful marriage and wonderful family. And I think the only thing on the table for us has been to stay married. And I remember when we first got married, we had met online back in the day when the commercials were on, and you were matched by your personality profile. And I was 38. And he was a single dad of 4 kids. And we met, and the first time he came around the corner, I thought, this handsome man, I knew from his profile that he had this wonderful twinkle. And when we talked, he was so kind, and I could just tell that he had the most generous spirit, and the romance was off to the races. So fast forward, I met the kids, and they're all amazing, very grounded, very kind, very funny, very smart, just like their dad. And we had started to really mesh as a family. And 3 years later, or 2 years later, I guess, he proposed. And he proposed with the kids there as a family. So talk about sweeping a girl off her feet again. He actually wrote an article about our first date and didn't tell me about it. And when our first date ended, he waited 3 days before he sent me this hugely romantic article about our first date. And I thought, oh, he did like me. Okay. And that's my guy, right? So we got married, and he had 2 requests and 2 desires for our marriage. And they were really simple. The first was to suit up and show up as a wife, as a bonus mom, that was really, really important to him. He's a man that's committed to commitment, and he lives by the motto of having joy every day.
Mm.
And so I thought, well, I can do that. And then the second was because he had been so busy running companies and raising kids and being a single dad and trying to do it all. He wanted a home again where he could open it up to entertain and have clients and family dinners, and the kids could have friends over. And I thought, that is my dream come true. I love to entertain. I love to keep a beautiful home. That is that's my dream.
Mm.
And I had quit my job and become a full-time bonus mom and full-time wife, and I was off to the races. And for the first 2 years, it was really great. And he was so pleasantly surprised with everything that I had done. And the appreciation just overflowed. And there would be flowers on the counter when I would come downstairs from cleaning. He'd sneak in from work and drop flowers on the counter and leave to surprise me, or call me and say, I'd love to take you out on a date. I know you've had a hard day. And I thought, this is amazing. And then people started telling me that they saw the passion for me taking care of my family. And I thought, I need to do more. What I'm doing can't possibly be enough. This is great. And so I remember it started with, I was shopping one day and saw this great pair of shoes for him and how handsome they would be. And I brought them home and said, I bought you some shoes. And he got compliments. And then I thought, okay, I need to have jeans to go with those shoes. And then he got compliments. And I thought, well, now I need to buy him a shirt to go with the jeans and the shoes. And you can see where this is going. Before I knew it, I was laying his clothes out. And this is a very capable man, right? And he always looked very handsome, but I had taken over. And then slowly but surely, I kept taking over other things. He had had his kitchen for 20 years. And I thought, I'm going to cook every meal. He doesn't need to come in here. I'll bring him his beer. I'll cook the meals. I'll do the dishes. Don't come in here. I've got it. And even when he would try to, on the weekend, make us a beautiful breakfast, he'd, cut up a little piece of bacon to season the pan. And I would stop him and say, no, I've got a little bag of bacon pieces over here. You see, I've cut up this wonderful bacon for you. And I was inserted into something he had taken the initiative for, to surprise me with a wonderful breakfast. And slowly but surely, that kept going. And we would have wonderful parties, guests over. One of the requirements on my profile was that if we go to a party and you're a hoverer and you can't let me go do my own thing, you're not for me. It won't work. And he loved that about me. He loved my confidence. And it came across when we entertained. And so I had taken that over too. And I started to notice that the more I would do, the parades were kind of slowing down. And I would do so much that I would be exhausted. So there was one night that we'd had a party. I don't know if it was for the kids or people. And I thought I knocked it out of the park. And he came in the kitchen and there were dishes everywhere. Of course, he had tried to help me with those before. And I would, if he'd put something somewhere, I would move it to where it would go. Right. And if he would try to do a dish and put it in the dish drain instead of the dishwasher, I'd move it to the dishwasher. So he had quit helping me in the kitchen. And we'd had this party and there were dishes in the sink. And he came in and said, okay, good night. And I thought, what? Where's my parade? I really liked the parade. And this was great. And I started fishing for compliments. And he said, yep, very nice. Night. And I thought, oh,
Ouch.
and I thought, I'm not doing enough. I missed something. So I started doing more and inserting myself into more of anything he would try to do. And if I would ask him for help and he'd try to help me, I would tell him then how to help me. Wait, no, not that way, this way. And then he kind of quit wanting to help me. So that just spiraled. And eventually I thought, I really miss the compliments. I miss him taking me out on dates. I miss that connection that we had. I must not be doing enough. And I went upstairs and Googled, why doesn't my husband give me compliments anymore? And you know what popped up next? It was your blog post.
Oh.
And I thought, this is a lady that's going to tell me that I'm right and I'm justified in my hurt feelings. And that's all I need to get a good night's sleep. And I started reading your blog post and how, quit lying to yourself that he never gives you compliments. And I thought, what? And I kept reading.
That's so
and
mean.
I thought, this seems kind of not what I was looking for to make myself feel better and justify, the situation. And the more I read, and you had talked about refocusing, and, he probably does give you compliments. And these are some examples of how, and if you focus on the fact that he's not, you're probably missing that he really is. And it resonated with me. And so I immediately ordered your book. And this was 2 days before our 10th anniversary. And we had planned a celebration, but we were arguing. It was just, the arguments were always over the same kind of thing. And it was me controlling everything and not really letting him have a say, I think. And so I thought, I'm going to order this book. And it came 2 days before our anniversary party. And I read the first chapter. And I really honestly almost checked my 23andMe because I thought we must be sisters. I thought, this is my story right here, chapter 1. And I thought, this man, I need to call and apologize right now before we renew our vows and tell him that this is going to get better. And I realized that I've really been controlling. And I called and I explained it to him and I was crying. And he said, well, he accepted my apology very graciously and said, what is this book? And I said, well, it's the surrender. I didn't have the empowered wife yet. It was the surrendered wife. I said, it's the surrendered wife. And he said, well, who's the author? I said, Laura Doyle. And I should know this because he researches and studies everything, right? But we hung up and had a wonderful 10th anniversary, renewed our vows. And I really had hope that this was going to be a game changer for me. And I started reading about the skills. And of course, the first one is self-care. And I thought, well, I don't have time for that one. I'm too busy. This is for other women who aren't as busy as I am, and I'm sure it'll be great for them. But I need to move on to relinquishing control because that's our big bogey. And so I skipped self-care and I started working on relinquishing control. And I started experimenting with whatever you think. And there was one night we were sitting down and he's a very adventurous, fun guy. And he said something about going skydiving. Now, normally, or a motorcycle or something. Now, normally when he would bring that up, I would give him a list of all the people I know that had died doing such things. It was just not, no, just no. And I looked at him and said, whatever you think. And he looked at me and he said, is that from your book? And I went, oh. And I felt so raw and exposed and I didn't know what to do. It caught me so off guard. And I said, what? And he said, the book. I said, how? And he said, well, you told me about it and I listened to some of it on Audible and it was innocent enough. And I was so reactive and I had held it so personally that I just lost it. And I can't explain the feeling. I took the book upstairs and threw it in a drawer and I didn't pick it back up for another 2 years. I took my toys and went home. That's the best way I can explain it. And I let him know that was very personal to me and how dare he, and really, he loves me. He researches every doctor I go to. He does all of that. So I should have anticipated that and I just didn't. And so we went on.
Too vulnerable. It sounds like too.
It was. I just felt so exposed.
Like you can't practice the skills now because he knows about them.
Exactly. Now what if I make a mistake? That's always kind of been my thing. And I wanted so badly to please him and show him that this could be different. So we went on another 2 years with this, and I kept doing more and trying more, and it just wasn't working. And we ended up getting a property a few hours from our home, and I was involved in the project, and it was a 3-hour drive. And my cousin had talked about all that she learned from all these different podcasts. And I thought, well, that sounds like news radio for 3 hours, and I don't want that. And then I started to get bored on these 3-hour drives. And I remembered that I thought you had a podcast. I thought, well, I'm going to give this a try. And I started listening, and I started with one, and I started another one. And these women that were sharing their stories sounded happy, like the same story that I had, but they sounded fun and happy, like women I'd want to go have lunch with. But they're sharing the same struggles that I was having. And I thought, how is this possible? And I kept listening. And then I started experimenting again. And the first thing I tried was, it was after Christmas, and I'd had an injury 2 days before Christmas. It was horrible. And my husband really was my hero that day in so many ways. And I walked in the kitchen, and there were dishes. And I said, I would love a clean kitchen. And I thought, well, there it goes. It's out there. He might have read it in the book. I don't know. And here we go. And I went upstairs and went to bed. And I came down the next morning, and there he was doing dishes. And it took everything in me to go sit on the couch and not say a word and not walk in there. And I had to tell myself, do not redo a dish. Do not move a dish. Do not touch anything that he's just done. Just sit there. Okay. So I made myself sit there, and I said, thank you so much. And I thought, hey, there's something to this that I'm doing now. Okay. And he doesn't know about it this time, so I think we're good. And I kept listening to the podcast, and it got to the man panel, which was brilliant, by the way. And the first one was Samuel's story. And I started listening. I thought, well, this will be fun from a man's perspective. And I heard so much of me and what I had contributed to our lack of intimacy from a man's perspective. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I felt that remorse all over again. And I thought, okay, I'm going to finish this podcast. And he started talking about his wife being part of a community of women and how much that helped her, and that wasn't something that he had. And I kept listening and kept listening. And I thought, is this community where all these podcast women go that are happy? And if so, I need to find them right away. And I did know that one area that I'd always shown respect was our finances. And he trusted me so much that he never checked the credit card bill. I thought, well, this is my chance. I'm going to go ahead and sign up for Ridiculously Happy Wife, and I'm going to give it 3 months. And that 3 months began to really change things. So much so that I took a leap into private coaching because I just wanted more. And it was so important to me this time to get it right. And it was amazing. And I could tell, we started going to happy hours, and I was able to communicate without taking everything he said personally. I still wasn't quite fun yet because I was so focused on what skill I was going to grab for what minute,
Takes a little focus, right? Yeah.
It does. It didn't come naturally to me at first, and that was frustrating for me. But we sat down at a happy hour, and I told him what I had been doing. And he said that he noticed a change and that he really supported us growing individually so that we would be better together. And I brought up that I would really love a coach for the next 6 months because I really felt like this is the program that resonated with me. We had tried counseling in the past, and it was disaster. I think we only did 2, and it was awful. Mm-hmm. And then I tried it on my own, and I found the person taking, my side and telling me how to fix my husband. If he would just take me out on dates, if he would do this, and if he would do this, and then everything would be better. And I knew that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted more of this. And I had resisted accountability my entire life, right? If you tell me I can't have chocolate on a diet, I'm going to go get 6 of them and I'm going to eat them and I'll start tomorrow. But don't tell me what I can and can't. I don't want to be accountable. And what I found in this group was all these women who were accountable, and they were so much happier than I was. And I wanted more of that. So I really started embracing it. And I stepped up for coaching one day. And I was just sure that it had to be something really complicated. And I just wanted to know how to recover from a fight. And the first question was, how's your self-care? And I thought, doesn't this lady know that's the one I skipped? I don't have time for this, but I'll hear it out, right? I had no idea what self-care was. I saved it up for 1 week a year where my husband took the kids on a vacation that I had backed out of years ago because I took control of everything and knew I'd ruined it. They would never say that, but I just knew that this wasn't the vacation for me. And so I saved my self-care up for that 1 week. And I thought, well, I'll catch it in December, but let me get through this call. And then she said, well, what can you do today for self-care? And I thought, today? Okay. And I said, well, there's a farmer's market I want to go to. She said, okay, try that. And she had explained that if we were filled up, that it was much easier to resist the bait of an argument because you could just let it roll off because you were relaxed and you were happy and you had taken care of yourself and maybe rested or whatever. And I took her advice and went to the farmer's market. But I took a stop first and went to a store that had vinyl records. And I love vinyl records. And I found Xanadu, which I guess that dates me a little bit, but I love that soundtrack.
I love Xanadu
and
too.
I was so excited. And I took it and put it in the car and ran to the farmer's market. And I walked in and got my fresh baked bread and my fruit and vegetables. And the owner looked at me and said, this is a great song. And I said, is that Xanadu? And he said, yeah, I swear this happened. He said, yeah. He said, they tried really hard to make it a bad movie, but I love it and watch it once a year. I said, I literally just bought that record and it's in my car. And we had the best time talking. And I came home so happy. And I called my husband right away and told him what happened. And he was laughing and I was laughing. And I thought, okay, there's something to this self-care thing, I guess, because I'm really happy right now. I kind of sound like one of those ladies on the podcast. And
you weren't even faking it. Yeah,
exactly. And so I kept going and we would clunk along, and my rear view mirror for things, I would still insert myself and be overly helpful. And then I'd have to apologize. And I thought, am I ever going to get this like before it happens? Right. And it just wasn't coming as naturally as I wanted. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And so I got back on calls and I heard one of the coaches talking about setting the tone in your home. And I had to ask myself what my tone was. And my husband, now that he knows I'm practicing the skills, his words are, you have a very special intensity about you. And when I see it, I kind of want to stay away. And I thought, I know that intensity and I can't blame you. I was wound tighter than a hair in a homemade biscuit. I really, really was. And so I thought, how do I want to set the tone? So I started kind of experimenting with that. And that started to warm things up even more. And then I'd hear a question in the coaching over and over, how do you want to show up? And I started kind of working with that. And then I heard that I was 100% responsible for my own happiness. And I thought, what? If he would, and I still had that old tape in my head, if he would take me out on dates and if he would do this, and if he would throw me my appreciation parade, that's when I'll smile. That's when I'll be happy. That's when I'll be filled up. And then when I heard that, I thought, oh, okay. And it resonated. And then I got on the next call and the coach said, to someone else, how do you want to show up? And I thought this seems to be a reoccurring theme. And I still just was struggling. Everything felt forced. I didn't feel authentic when I would practice the skills for the most part. I would try to be girl of fun and light, and it came across really fake. But I thought I wanted him to see how hard I was trying. And the coach took the phrase, how do you want to show up? And changed it just a little bit and said, who do you want to be for you? And that is when the magic happened. That truly is where everything turned around. And I realized that I had gone on for 3 months performing all these skills for him. And I didn't know how to do it for me. So when that landed, that's when everything changed. And I'm so grateful.
Wow. Okay. I love this story, Nicole. This is amazing. And some of the things that I think are kind of remarkable about it, you kind of just mentioned, I'm like, yeah, I control things and then I have to apologize. And you kind of just went on, but that's kind of a big deal, right? There was a day when you decided like, oh, I'm controlling and I want to apologize for that. I mean, how did you get yourself to start like recognizing that and then apologizing is pretty hard, right? Wasn't it?
You were right when I think you said at one point it tasted like sand coming out. And I would apologize in kind of I'm sorry for being disrespectful. It didn't come out like
So
honey,
heartfelt.
I'll put it that way,
Yeah.
and then, but I saw that he appreciated it and it was a new thing for him. And then I noticed that I felt better. And I started to realize that I had more energy when I wasn't trying to control absolutely everything in our life. I had calmed down, and
Yeah,
it
you
did
let him
take
clean the
over.
kitchen too.
I
So
did. And
I
I
mean that's
sat
big, right?
there,
Those
I
dishes were
did.
probably not the way you would have done them. They weren't put away where you wanted them to be, I bet.
I don't even care anymore. I'm just
Pretty
happy
great.
they're done.
Well, who
Uh,
are you and what have you done with Nicole? Because
that, you
right.
know, I feel it now. I wondered when that would happen. I feel the happiness now. It like a physical feeling. Even when things fall apart and I would normally have a temper or, be a total martyr, that was my special gift. I could throw my hand on the back of my forehead. And if he would say something like, we had a big event and I couldn't find anything to wear, something didn't fit, and I'd tear the closet apart. And he'd come down and say, the closet. And, well, I had all this to do and this to do, and I'll get to it. And you didn't see that I did this and this and this. And this just happened recently. We had an event, something didn't fit, I tore the closet apart, and I left it for a couple days. And he came downstairs, and he's getting a little braver now that I've calmed down a lot. And he said, "So the closet, what's going on in there?" And I said, "I really have no idea. It's horrible." And he laughed
Cute.
and I laughed.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I said, I don't know. Um,
So instead of
and
trying to show him all the things you've done, you were
yeah,
just relaxed. You were just playful, it sounds like.
and it was a playful accountability, which
Yeah.
also made me even want to
Yeah.
embrace accountability more.
That is a great way. I love how you just described that. That is a beautiful distinction. You weren't just playful, you were also saying, I don't know, it's horrible. Like, but it was clear. It's like, yeah, I
Yeah,
know, I kind of messed up the closet, right?
yeah,
And the accountability doesn't always look like somebody saying, you have to be accountable. Sometimes it's about
mhm,
just laughing and kind of like, I
yeah.
can't cope. What are you going to do with me? Right. Like, so that's pretty cute.
It really. And then I thought, I'm liking how this is turning out, because then I would laugh and he would laugh, and he knew I'd get to the closet eventually. And I, part of it's still there, honestly, but we're happy. So I'll get to it in a second. I'm enjoying the intimacy that's coming from not having to do everything or feel like everything's on me. Because the truth is, it's still there and I don't care. So
Yeah. And
that's been
probably if
really,
you asked to borrow his brain, he might even help you fix it or whatever, right? If you wanted, who knows, right?
that's been a really big thing is asking to borrow his brain and then shutting my mouth and not trying to interject what I would do, because he is really smart. This happened. This is probably my biggest win of all that just happened. We went on a family vacation and I was so terrified. I brought it to my private coach because I didn't want to ruin it. And I knew that it was really important for him that I go, and I wanted to go. I just had that same fear that I'm going to do something that's going to irritate someone, or I'm going to try to take something over. And it's better for me, just they'll go have fun, right? That was my old tape playing, that I would ruin something, and I went and we had a great time. And we came home and our refrigerator was out. So had to replace it. And that is my kitchen still. I control the kitchen, I control the dog. There are certain things that are just mine. And I thought, nope, not this time. And he started shopping for refrigerators and he'd send me one and I'd say, that's great, whatever you think. And what color? And I did say, I couldn't quite let go of that completely. And I said,
Right.
well, I like this one for this, and I like this one for this. And now you choose whatever you think is great. And
You told him your
they're beautiful.
desires. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're beautiful. And then they came and they weren't installed correctly. So he came home to fix it. And I had already shuttled all the food and done all the things. And normally I would be, martyr, martyr, martyr me. And I got on a coaching call instead. And I was shuffling ice while I was listening to the call. And he came home and said, okay, I'll fix it. I said, great. I'm going to sit over here and watch TV for an hour. And he went, okay. And I sat down and watched TV while he fixed the fridge. And then the next day came and he said, I have some ideas on organizing the refrigerator. And I thought, whoa, oh, I don't know. Okay. And I thought, listen to the ideas, put on your listening ears, get your duct tape out and
Oh,
listen. And he had
oh.
some great ideas. Well, one great idea. And then that was good enough for me. And I was going to handle the rest. Right. So I came in and said, great idea. I love it. And he said, and I forgot my duct tape. And I went, because I just wasn't ready for the next step yet. And I didn't have duct tape on my face. And he looked at me and said, never mind. You can do it. You can do whatever you want. He went and sat down. And I thought, oh, I did it. There it goes. And I apologized right away. And it didn't register with him as fast as it registered with me. And he was still ready to just sit it out. And I said, no, really, I'm really sorry. And I started to cry. And I said, that's the old me. And I don't want to show up like that anymore. I don't. So I would love to go take a shower and hear your ideas and we can do the refrigerator. He said, okay. And I went up and took a shower. He accepted my apology and came back down. And he said, okay, if we can organize the refrigerator without killing each other, I would love to take you on a date. And I said, okay, and I thought, keep your mouth closed. And he walked in with his ideas and it turns out they were the same as mine. And I was so happy. And I thought, we're going to go on the best date ever. And then he did one last thing and I didn't love it. And it just was not at all what I wanted. And I thought, okay. And he said, what do you think? And I gritted my teeth and gave him the biggest fake smile I could muster. And I said, I think I really want to go on the date. And I slammed the refrigerator closed and ran for the door. And we laughed and we went on the best date. He took me out to a nice dinner and we had a great time. And we got back in the car and he said, okay, now for the second stop. And I was like, what? Second stop? I mean, I'm great with the first stop, but I decided to receive graciously and just be pleasable and surprisable for a change and not ask a million questions. And we pulled up to this building and I didn't know what it was. And we were on the cruise 2 weeks earlier. They had an old broken pinball machine and I kept passing it and I'd always look at it. And I'd mentioned something about, I used to love pinball. And we walk in this building and it's arcade. And on the back wall, it's full of pinball machines and it's unlimited play. And he said, let's go play. And we played and we played and we played. And I was so happy. And I said, thank you so much. And we got back in the car and he said, well, and he's driving past me. He said, I was going to take you there for dessert, but they closed because we were in playing pinball for so long. And then I was going to take you over here to the pinball store, but they closed. So we're going to have to do that another time. And I thought, this man just planned 4 dates in one. And I had no idea. And so he's still the same man that I married 12 years ago. The change was me.
And the
He's
girl he
that
fell in
same
love
man
with
that wrote about our first date.
yeah, the girl that he fell in love with was back, and he couldn't wait
Mm-hmm.
to take her out and show her a good time and play
Yeah,
and laugh together.
exactly. And we did it
Oh,
again 2 days later, and then again 2 days later, just different things. And it's new all over again.
wow. Wow. This is incredible. So, Nicole, congratulations on recreating
Thank you.
this newlywed feeling that you are enjoying. And I give you all the credit for that, right? And this was, I mean, it takes a lot of accountability. That's definitely a strength of yours,
Mhm.
and humility to make some of these changes, right? Because you probably feel like you had the best idea for how to do that refrigerator, right? And you
Yes.
were willing to just kind of bite your tongue and just decide like it wasn't worth it to force that into the situation. You'd rather just enjoy the intimacy and the connection and the playfulness that you guys had, and that was clearly evident in that terrific date he took you on, and even like the humility of saying like, okay, I'll do this self-care thing, even though I think it's kind of silly. I'm going to go to the farmer's market. I'm going to buy my Xanadu album, right? Like all these actions that you took required some faith on your part. Like you just thought, okay,
Yes.
I'm going to just try this. What have I got to lose? I'm going to do it. And certainly the apologies, receiving graciously, like with the pinball thing, with the arcade, thinking, what is this? Right. You could have gone there. You could have said like, oh, I don't want to go to an arcade. Right. But you were just open. And it seems like it's really paying off. So I admire that very much.
Thank
What,
you.
yeah, what's your relationship like now?
I feel like we're building that trust again, and I can see the emotional safety coming back. I still have to focus sometimes. I still catch myself. The grace from the reactivity's gone down, I would say, because he knows what I'm trying to work on. And so, like the other day, he walked in the refrigerator and started looking for a protein shake. And I've come to the conclusion that sometimes men just like to look in the refrigerator, right? But my old habit kicked in and he was looking for a protein shake. And I said, the mocha ones are on the right. And I thought to myself, the man is so capable. He runs multiple companies. He can read a protein shake. Just watch your TV. So I still catch myself, but we can laugh about it. And he's very supportive of all of this. And now he came home from a couple of different meetings. And I said, well, how did it go? And he said, great. I had so much fun bragging about you. And I thought, there's my compliment, the compliments are back. And he said over and over how much he's seen the change and the growth and
Oh,
how grateful he
gosh.
is. It's translated to even our grandkids, you know, um, the enjoyment we have because I can just relax now. I feel relaxed. I feel calm. And the truth is, I get twice as much done now. If I take, I don't, and I used to hide my self care at first, I'll be honest. If I thought, well, I do need a 20-minute nap, but I always thought of my job on the clock as, 8 to 5, he's at work, I'm going to work, and I'm going to be very diligent because I didn't want to blow it. And So I would close my eyes for a few minutes, and we have the app on our phone that dings when we're close to home, and it would ding, and I would jump up from my nap and start doing dishes. Like, I'm good. I haven't been napping. And so I was kind of hiding it. And now he knows about it. And he knows that for me, sometimes it's not setting my alarm or a quick nap or something just simple. And he's embraced it now. And he sees that I do better with my self care. So I think it's calmed everything down. All the relationships, the whole family is seeing me show up and set a whole different tone. And I found my coach had said something about how husbands can be accountability partners. And at first I thought, oh, I don't know about that. And then I thought, I was finishing the closet one night. I didn't finish. I'm still not finished. But when I was working on it, I started to feel that icky, tight feeling again. And my grandma handle is Nini. And so all the kids call me Nini. And sometimes my husband will call me Nini as a term of affection. And I thought, I think this is turning into no no. I could feel that feeling.
You're
And
no
I
longer
thought to
needy. You're no, no.
myself, I'd rather
Yeah.
be Nini. And I went downstairs and he goes, so how'd it go? And I said, well, it's not done. I said, but I started feeling that icky feeling and like prickly, and I didn't want to come downstairs that way. So I quit. And I've decided that that's my no no. So when you see it, maybe we could both just have a code word and say, no, no. And then I'll understand. And I'd much rather be Nini. So now he's turning into a really wonderful accountability partner. And he's just so supportive. And he's the smart, fun, protective, generous. Just, I could go on about all the things he's always been that I quit appreciating. So the appreciation has flipped. I felt unappreciated. And what I realize now is that I'm the one that wasn't appreciating who he truly has always been from day one.
So sweet. Well, it sounds dreamy. It sounds wonderful. It sounds like I hear a lot of emotional safety and just playfulness, like just relaxed, good times going on at your house. And I give you all the credit for that, Nicole, because it
Yeah.
sounds like that wasn't happening. It sounds like there was some tension, probably some fighting going
Yeah.
on previous. So this is a big transformation at your house. And it sounds like your whole family is benefiting from it, even your grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very exciting. It must be like a big accomplishment. It really sounds like a big accomplishment to me.
Thank you. I feel that way.
Yeah. In fact, ta-da! You have won
Oh,
my Best
thank
Wife
you.
Award. Yeah, congratulations. I want to recognize your achievement in creating love in your family, um, learning how to love and be loved in
Mm-hmm.
return. It's I can't think of anything I think is more important. Well done.
Thank you.
What's a tip you would give to somebody who feels like you did, where you do everything, you don't feel appreciated, it feels like it's tense, you don't know she doesn't know what happened to the good times and why they're gone and why he's so different, even though she's just trying to help. And she wants what you have now, where she's going on these romantic dates and there's just all this laughter and just a sense of ease in your home. What should she do? What's your best tip for her?
The first thing would be get the book and Empowered Wife. Keep it to yourself for a while and start to experiment. And the podcasts are amazing. Hearing the voices of women whose lives have changed and men um, was a real game changer for me. And the community, if at all possible, I have come to just love these women. And it really is a place of safety to share and grow and be authentic, um, and give yourself grace along the way because everybody's journey is different. I think for some people it happens in weeks. It took a little longer for me, but I had a 10 or 12-year history of digging in my heels, and that doesn't necessarily change overnight, especially when you feel like it couldn't possibly be you. So I would say just give yourself grace and keep going, keep experimenting, and eventually the wheels will hit the runway and you'll take off and fly.
Wow. And you really did take off and fly. And I just hear your determination to get it all back, to not be okay with just, um, we're just married and that this is just how it is, but to
Hmm.
really want to create where you feel desired and special and taken care of, cherished. Uh, yeah, so you did a great job with that. And what do you think you would say to Nicole if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
Relax, have fun. Um, Doing is different from being, and being is better.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes it's more fun to keep things simple and be a part of the party instead of just throwing the party. So,
Mm.
days go by fast, kids grow, and if I could go back and change anything, it would probably be, along with my husband, the way I helped raise the kids. I could have relaxed and let them have their own paper and experience their life in a different way. So
Mm.
I would say just relax and be fun and have fun.
Beautiful accountability and wisdom. Gives me chills really to hear you say that. Well, how do you think it has affected your kids that you've done all this?
I think some of that, because we are empty nesters, is yet to be seen. I think on the vacation, I'm sure, I hope it was noticed. And I'm looking forward to the holidays now, especially because I think it'll be a whole different ball game. And that's exciting for me. So I can tell a difference of how I am just with the little ones, and I feel lighter and more fun. And I think that has to rub off on them to want to be around us more. And I'm just more fun.
It sounds like you feel like you're yourself more
Hmm.
than ever, and your best self, your most fun
Yes.
self, your most fun
Yeah.
Nini self.
Yes, exactly.
Well, awesome, Nicole. Great job. Thank you so much for sharing so personally, so authentically with us your incredible journey, your incredible accomplishment in your
Thank you.
family. That was very inspiring.
Thank you so much.
What's it really like to be a relationship coach, and how do wildly successful relationship coaches get that way anyway? Find out by listening to the Successful Relationship Coach podcast with master relationship coach Kathy Murray, one of the best relationship coaches in the world. She has helped so many relationship coaches become wildly successful, including me. She shares her secrets every week on the Successful Relationship Coach podcast. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week's podcast topic is, what does it mean when your husband rejects you sexually? In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that I am still on a high from getting to spend a few days with over 60 of my friends from all over the world who also happen to be certified relationship coaches at the Coach Symposium. Thank you, coaches. That was so much fun.